PureEsperanza, bringing you ancient wisdom's quantum leap. Find your connection, consciousness communities in the metaverse. Our mission? To spark creativity, curiosity, consciousness, and well-being through responsible technology and wisdom teaching.
Welcome to our 6-part well-being support series to help you get feeling good. Your host, Drew McCaughey, flow state and energy transformation coach, and myself, Esperanza Smith, energy medicine practitioner, holistic educator, and founder of PureEsperanza NFP, a nonprofit dedicated to consciousness and well-being. This episode, gut it out and get a boost. Let's get right down to the nitty-gritty. So, lots of talk about quantum leaping and leveling up, and within all that talk is what each of us are taking up for ourselves, and it can be quite tricky cleaning up our act, so to speak. So let's focus specifically at the gut level. That's where we want to start today. What's really going on here, Drew?
Well, a healthy gut is everything. It all starts in the gut, right? And so you need to be able to, break down your food properly and get all the nutrients out of it that you need to get out of it for your body to operate at its optimal level. And this whole series is basically going to be about concepts and ideas that, will help people to understand how they can do things on their own to, help their bodies function at more optimal levels. And when we're talking about digestion and we're talking about food, you really sort of need to back up to, when things sort of changed in our modern world about the food we eat, right? You got to go back to what we ate before the war and what we ate after the war. And, as things developed, we started processing more and more food, and we got away from eating, raw food and, food that was in your local region, for example. And when you start talking about those kinds of things, what you realize is that some of the stuff when you're processing food or you're not eating raw food, you're not eating the enzymes that's in the foods. And really what it boils down to is, we need enzymes to break down food. Enzymes are really important in our body. For example, for your heart to beat one time takes 85 enzymatic processes. Your liver filters all your blood in 3 minutes. That takes 180,000 or 165,000, enzymatic processes. And so, everything that goes on in our body is enzymatic processes. And when we eat food, those enzymes need to break it down. For example, just one example, if you don't, when you ingest a protein and you don't break that down to an amino acid, your body doesn't know what to do with it because it's too big, right? So it'll recognize that as a toxin and take that and store it somewhere where it's not going to hurt you. And for the most part, that's going to be in your joints, and that adds up. So, it's a really important topic for people to understand, this enzyme process, etc. And if you don't have the enzymes to break down the food, by the way, your body's going to borrow the enzymes from somewhere else, like your metabolic enzymes. And when you make your transition, it's because your metabolic enzymes are no longer functioning.
Yeah, I think that's a really important concept to understand in our relationship with food. And, certainly this image that we showed here helps you get a better understanding of what is it that you're doing actually when you eat food. So much of us associate it more with like just the experience of what we're tasting and, emotional ties to that as well too. But when we actually talk about those physical chemical changes and how energy is really being used for that cellular activity, where we need food for that cellular energy, that's a whole different story. Even when we talk back to, times when we really could get a sense for the changes that were happening with our ways of leading more natural ways that we took care of our bodies and started to use post-industrial kind of things, started to use more processed foods, things that you had mentioned. But even the simple fact of people that, fed their children from a mother's breast milk, and then that shifted, and certainly, pharmaceuticals came in and everybody else came in, but just the idea that formulas were created and that became the replacement for naturally feeding a baby. That was, I think, very indicative of the changes that happened, but not only from the standpoint that, okay, we're going to substitute and replace something, but from the internal processes of what were happening. Because all the different immunities that a mother's breast milk gives, and that are certainly promoted a lot now, and people are starting to return to that, but they were lost. They weren't given to the child through this formula. A formula couldn't duplicate those kinds of things. So it's really interesting to see how we, shift from using things, then we find out the harm that it can cause us, and now we're trying to get back to it into a different understanding. You had a really beautiful example of that enzyme processing, Drew, and how it breaks down food. Can you show that with us today?
Sure, yeah. So I've got we call this the pudding example, pudding demonstration.
Yeah.
And I've got this little pudding, just a little snack pudding. I won't show the label because it really doesn't matter. And I just opened this up, and it's, it doesn't matter if it's pudding. Don't pay attention to the fact it's pudding. What it represents is processed food. And if I try to pour that out, it really doesn't pour out very well, you can see.
Yeah.
Now I've also got this little digestive, full spectrum digestive enzyme capsule. And I'm just going to put that, and unfortunately you can't see me do it, so you're going to have to trust me on this one. I'm doing it. I'm putting it in there. And I'm just pouring that into the pudding, and then I'm just going to stir that up. So what this is doing, this digestive full spectrum plant-based, by the way, digestive enzyme, it's so you can see me stirring.
Yeah.
It's helping to pre-digest the food so your body can actually get all the nutrients out of it. And, you're going to talk a little bit about one of the most important aspects of everything that we're going to talk about, and that's the mitochondria. If we're not feeding that mitochondria right, so go ahead and talk about that.
Yeah.
Take a few minutes.
So while you're stirring that, I just wanted to say, because the visual on that is so amazing. It's from seeing it be like really, gelatinous and thick. Wow, Drew. It's just, this opportunity to see from the micro to the macro at work and how it all works to give us a boost. So our body's just so truly amazing. When we talk about the mitochondria, I want to go back to those cells and our multicellular system. So we have approximately 37.2 trillion cells, and they're continually communicating as a whole. That internal function is operated by organelles known as our mitochondria. And now mitochondria has gained more attention and traction in health circles in these past few years. But when it comes to our health, it's like any upgrades or any major renovations that you like do in your own home. You need to assess, and then you have to find out what needs to be gutted out and then built up. And that's kind of what we have to look at when we're talking about how we're supporting our system and our mitochondria and these enzymatic processes, things that are happening to break down our food and give us the energy, properly optimize our cellular optimization. So,
yeah, and we should mention real quick, Esperanza, because this is something that everyone will relate to. If you eat a big meal and you're tired afterwards, you're not properly digesting your food. Your body's working too hard to break that down. That's why you're tired. You're supposed to eat food and get energy from it.
But Drew, that dispels the big Thanksgiving Day dinner.
Yeah, I know, but that's just a perfect example. I mean, I've experienced it too. Now that I've added this digestive enzyme, I don't get food coma anymore. And here's why. So you remember that pudding, that all bulked up, clumped up, pudding is now a liquid.
Yeah.
Let's see, where is that camera? There.
Yeah.
So now your body can take that, digest it, break it down to its micro level, and you won't be tired. And you will also be getting all the nutrients from your food.
Right. That's so vital. And I think that's one of the big connections that we're missing. And going back to that mitochondria now, I wanted to share with you this idea of, this, the power factories fueling our cells. And when we're looking at the metabolism converting from the carbohydrates, fats into energy, this is a big part of it. It's working to really, switch on this longevity system, repair our cells. So at about the age of 35, you really start to get depleted activity as far as your hormonal reproduction, your muscles and skin start to change, and you have all this activity and vitamins and minerals that support proteins for survival, for the actual piece of just maintaining all those muscles, all that functioning of your body. But it doesn't go to longevity. That longevity is something that really isn't seen as favored in the human species. We're really built and designed for all those reproductive years and all that years when we're really active. And then later on, as we, get older in age, all those systems start to shut down. So the mitochondria is something that really goes to support us in lots of different ways. And let me go back to my other screen to share that with you. And just to really understand that we have, throughout this history and what we've seen happen since the post-industrial time, all the modern times and lifestyles that we're in right now, we can now see that we have depleted food systems. Our food isn't nutritionally as compact and vibrant as it was before. And we have depletion in our soils, rain pollution, lots of different reasons why our food is depleted. But we also have these systems of our bodies that have also been made more dysfunctional. And that is through the different processed foods that we've eaten, the depletion of minerals and vitamins in our foods, the antibiotics that we use today, that is a natural recourse to so many of our medical conditions, is to substitute with, a healing process that is about using antibiotics. So all of this is destroying our gut system, destroying our bacteria, our flora, all of those kinds of things. And so supporting how to create healthy bacteria in our gut, which also includes every bit of our cell, because mitochondria is actually a bacteria. And it actually came about over a billion years ago, several billions of years ago, that mitochondria actually worked its way into plants and animals, into the bodies of plants and animals. And they have their own DNA. So our human bodies are actually the hosts for the mitochondria. And they really do everything to support our system. They are considered to be the life and death keepers, and they fuel our cells by keeping them running properly. So at the very center, again, this micro of the macro, you have the cell, and the organelles inside the cell that are fueling the cells are the mitochondria. So it makes sense to be looking at how to support the mitochondria in our systems. And when our cells don't die, they become cancerous. And when they are dying off too quickly, it results in accelerated aging. So a healthy gut is vitally important and certainly plays a role in healthy cells. And quality supplements to support your mitochondria are very beneficial, especially at this time in history, when we really are in such great need of supporting our immune systems and how to also know to boost our immune systems. And those are all the things that we're talking about today and how to do that. Likewise, enzymes and probiotics act as a powerful combination for that protein breakdown. Speaking of which, Drew, you have some other things that you were going to share about those probiotics. But before we get to that, I have something that I wanted to share, which was a little recipe that you can try at home. And then we'll jump into something that Drew has some great information on. I'm going to go ahead and share this recipe with you and see if this is something you might want to try at home. So we know that probiotics are a healthy way to support our gut bacteria, and it replaces the kind of good gut, so to speak, that we need to have, the good bacteria in our gut. And this is a simple one that I've made at home. And Drew, I've talked to you about this before in the past. And as you know, this is something simple that people can try. Not everybody has time for this, and that's why, we recommend a high quality probiotic, but this is one that you can use in addition to one that you purchase from a store or that you get online, or however you make your purchases, but a quality one for sure. So you blend a cup of spring water with 4 cups of ripe unpeeled fruit in a blender. You cook it at a mixture that's in a low heat for about 20 minutes or so until it boils, really making sure that all the sugar's out of it. You can taste that. It's got a little bit of a sour tang to it. And then you let it cool down to body temperature, similar if you were shaking that formula on your wrist and testing it to see if it's warm temperature, body temperature. And then you're going to put a capsule of a high quality S. boulardii or Saccharomyces boulardii capsule into the mixture, stir it up. And once you put that into the bowl, you're going to leave it in a light, like an oven light is perfect, or any place that's warm that has a light over it for the next few days. You're going to let that expand and you're going to watch it grow. So you're going to actually see a fermentation taking place and the bacteria actually growing. And it's a great way to have it available for you and ready. You take it by a tablespoon once in the morning, you refrigerate it for about 4 weeks, and it works out really well for you. And then you come off of that and you let it rest for a little while before you go back to using it again. So usually about 30 days max, and then you go off of it for a little period of time. And usually that works out just about right with the process of making it and then letting it refrigerate, using it up, and then you go off of it and then you go to making it again. So you're off of it for a few days while you're making it again. But it's a great way to have a live probiotic that's available to you, and that's going to give you a high yielding result because it's live, it's active. So that's a really good way to.
I wanted to just mention real quick that because the live part and the refrigeration part are important little tips for people to understand. There are some stabilized probiotics in that capsule, which stabilized simply means it doesn't need to be refrigerated, and it's just a little bit. It's just enough to keep your gut flora going. But what you just said is important to understand, because just like when you go to a grocery store, you don't want to shop in the inner aisles. You want to shop where everything needs to be refrigerated. So in other words, if you're trying to buy a probiotic off the shelf that doesn't need to be refrigerated, think about that for a second, because you really want to have it, be something that needs to be refrigerated. So.
Yeah. And I think there still are some shelf quality probiotics, which we're going to talk about too. But I think that it's important to know that you really want to look for high quality. So you want to really look at your source of where you're getting that probiotic and how many like trillions of active ingredients are inside there, active bacteria that are inside there. So, Drew, I know that we've talked a little bit about all these different items as far as the enzymes and, the breaking down of the proteins, how essential that is for your body. But when we're talking about all of this, we're really wrapping it up into summing up into 3 main reasons of why we're doing this. You want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, I mean, basically what we're in this, even throughout this whole series, we're just, encouraging and educating, that just because we get older doesn't mean that we have to get sick. But, your body is brilliant. Your body is amazing. And if you feed it the right stuff, so for example, we believe that we're not pharmaceutical drug deficient. We are nutrient deficient.
Yeah.
And when you understand that and you understand what your body is looking for and asking for, and you give it to your body will do what it wants to do. And that's to create homeostasis and keep you as healthy as it possibly
There
can.
you go.
You know, and it's not a miracle. It's, you know,
Right.
we're not claiming anything. We're not blaming anybody for anything either.
Yeah.
That's, you know, we're just saying that educate yourself, take the time, you know,
Yeah.
it's worth it. I mean, you know, I remember not too long ago, and I'm not going to give, you know, years or whatever, but there was a time not too long ago when I didn't know any of this. And I thought I was a knee replacement candidate. I had to wear a back brace every day, and I had arthritis in my hands. I've got none of it now.
Yeah.
So, you know, what's the quality of that now for me? I can't put a price on it. So,
yeah, well, that goes back to that repairing of the cells, you know,
yeah,
because that's what's
100%.
happening. So that's another reason, you know, we were talking about that with the mitochondria. If we're rebuilding our cells and our cells are working, we can actually create longevity in our bodies. And that's, you know, not something far-fetched in the future or sci-fi. That's what research and biochemists are talking about today, about the
Right.
ability to actually transform and create a new body from the biological level. So this is a really interesting topic. And, you know, obviously all of these things are leading to this optimal levels of creating natural defenses, of that relationship you have with your food that allows you to heal even parts of our modern lifestyle that aren't always conducive to this homeostasis that you're talking about, Drew, to really be able to find ways that we can be supporting and therefore healing our bodies. So preventative is key here. And it's really important that we dispel those modern ideas about aging, because we really can have a quality life as we age. And Drew, I know that PureEsperanza carries two potent dynamic duos here that are great for all these things we've been talking about. And I'd like to have you talk about it more, because I know you know a lot about these products, have seen their evolution over time. So I'm going to pull up the image of Flow, and you can share with us about that.
Sure. This one we've given you the demonstration. This is the full spectrum plant-based digestive enzyme. And when I say full spectrum, you know, if you're looking for a digestive enzyme, you don't want to get one that's just lactase rather, because that's just going to break down lactose. You want to be able to break down everything that you're ingesting in your body. So this is full spectrum, plant-based, was developed over 20 years ago now by a very well respected and well-known formulator, Ty. You see Sean and Ty up there. Ty is the one who created it back then. Yeah. And it's proven itself with athletes. It works extraordinarily well. Athletes, doctors, it's a great product, and all you do is you just take it whenever you eat food. So it's real simple. It's a capsule form whenever you're going to eat some food. Now, if you're eating raw food, you don't need it. Okay, so let's just get that out of the way, because the raw food has plenty of enzymes. But if you're eating anything cooked or anything processed, and most people cook their food, you know, you want to take one capsule with it when you eat.
Yeah. I do also like the fact that it has a probiotic in it. So it's got that combination, and that's a really important piece. And we're so excited for this new line, Culture for Good, and super excited about that. Now, Drew, I wanted to bring up the other product that I had mentioned, and that is the Proteo 2. Yes,
this is full spectrum proteolytic enzyme. Now, this one you take away from food. And what proteolytic enzymes do is, when you take it on an empty stomach, so you might want to take it either, you know, like before you go to bed or when you first wake up, and you have it before you've eaten anything. And what they'll do is just search through they go into the bloodstream, they search the body, and they looked for what's called rogue proteins. Now, most people, I mentioned that I had, you know, symptoms of arthritis, right, in my hands. And that means that I had rogue protein buildup in my hands. So over time, that creates inflammation, basically. Because remember, we talked about earlier, if you don't break down a protein into amino acids, your body's going to recognize it as a toxin, and it's going to store it. Well, it's going to store it where it can't hurt you from a life standpoint, but it so if you put it in your joints, it's not going to give you a heart attack. But over time, that builds up and creates inflammation. So these will go through the system, find these proteins, start breaking them down and releasing them. You break them down into amino acids. And over time, then your body gets the opportunity to actually go in and repair itself because it's not inflamed all the time. And so this is my first favorite product is the digestive enzymes. This one quickly became my second when I started realizing what it does to what it helped me and my body do with my joints.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, the fact that it is, a lot of times we think about enzymes and we think about just to break down the food and more of the gut. But what I love about Proteo too is that it's systematic. So like you said, it's going to all parts of the system. And, there are just so many autoimmune diseases of today that we know about. And so much of it, is pointing and steering us to, what we have to do here to properly break down our food. And obviously that comes with choices about, what we're eating and all those things. And certainly we encourage people, again, to, get educated and find a balance with a healthier nutrition, a nutritive quality to your eating. I wanted to share this last image here as we talk about these two products that can help. And again, encourage you to educate yourself, take notes and tips on this episode also, so that we can hear back from you. Share your comments in the screen below, all those kinds of things. And we would love to be able to support you and your systems for your well-being. So again, this is a potent dynamic duo, the Flow and the Proteo 2. And this is the enzyme probiotic and the proteolytics, which is that systematic enzymes. And this is, again, both available to you at PureEsperanza.org in our shop. A whole approach to well-being. That's the key here. So with that being said, thank you again so much for always joining us, Drew, and having these great discussions that I know we enjoy so much and that are so helpful for daily life every day.
Yeah, and thanks for putting this together, Esperanza, because it's so important. I love talking about it, and whoever we reach, and if we can, help somebody in any way, shape, or form, that's what we're here to do. And I appreciate you putting the series together. It's not only fun, it's a good education, right?
Yeah, well, and that's what it's all about. It's about educating ourselves. So more information for you at PureEsperanza.org, our shop, blogs, global community. You'll find Drew there and his website. You are powerful beyond measure.com, and our Pure Esperanza YouTube channel, which this will be here on YouTube, and follow us on LinkedIn and Twitter. Lots of free information, lots of great resources. Use them, boost yourself, and claim your golden ticket. Thank you.